All right, we are waiting for Matthew Tukaki to come on the line, but I want to give you a background to this story. So Matthew Tukaki, very active on Facebook. He's got a talkback show, I think, on Radio Wāti or on some Māori radio station. Matthew was the chief executive of what is called the Māori Council, and he was deselected in March last year. He was taken off being the Māori Council as its executive director. May 2021, he lost that job over a vote because the Māori Council has votes with district councillors voting. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I presume it's a functional one-person, one-vote democracy. But Matthew Tukaki loses his job there, and he then goes to work and sets up a thing called the National Māori Authority. The National Māori Authority. He's on the line now, but I do want to put the background in here. And Matt now runs the National Māori Authority. But when he was head of the Māori Council got $1 million from, at that time, MB, for what I understand was some sort of work creation scheme in Bennydale. Nothing wrong with that. We spend money to create all sorts of projects and programs for people, and they are offered and administered by third parties and given to other agencies to implement. The funny thing was, which the Māori Council is now concerned about, that after Mr. Tukaki had left the Māori Council, he then got that $1 million contract transferred over to the new place he was working at, the National Māori Authority. And the current people running the Māori Council are saying that's a bit dodgy. If he wasn't working for us and he had no authority to act for us, how could he sign over $1 million contract, government contract, now I think MSD are administering it, how could he then sign that over to the organisation he's now working for? And I have to say personally, it looks a little dodgy, to say the least. Newsroom have covered this in depth, and it is all the buzz on the streets of Wellington inside the Beltway. I'm really appreciative that Matthew Tukaki, and I've got to say we know each other, we may have even had a beer together from time to time. Matthew Tukaki joins us on the line now. Matthew, kia ora, welcome to the program, and thank you for joining us.
No, mate, I'd always love the platform. I think you guys are going gangbusters. But let me just clear up some mistruths and misfacts. First of all, the article that was published by Newsroom has already been corrected half a dozen times.
There are some minor corrections on it today, but I didn't go there. Are you suing them for defamation or not, Matthew, or are you going to let it stand?
I've currently got my lawyers looking at it, but let me clear up some other inaccuracies in that article. First of all, they didn't include the fact that there is an ongoing inquiry into the triennial elections of 2021 that see this current horde of officers that purport to represent the New Zealand Māori Council. Now, I would argue strongly, Sean, I still represent the council. I won my election as chair of the Auckland Central Māori Committee and happy to provide documents and evidence to that effect.
No, so you are disputing the outcome of the election, which removed you as having authority. Okay, but would you accept right now, Matthew, you do not have legal authority?
No, I do not accept that. I do not accept that until the inquiry has been concluded. And quite frankly, the inquiry having taken this long is an affront to democracy and an affront to Māori right across the country.
Okay, let's just boil it back. Let's just boil it back down. I just want to check a couple of facts that are fundamental to the story. In March of 2021, did you sign a contract with MB worth $965,000 for a work program in Bennydale, and you signed that contract on behalf of the Māori Council when you were its executive director? Is that correct?
So, look, you've got to understand.
A simple question, Matthew, yes or no?
Right, it's actually, I know you want to get to the heart of it, but it needs to be explained because the Māori Committee in Bennydale, under the Māori Community Development Act, have the right to raise contracts, undertake work.
Okay, I don't care if they've got the right. My question was pretty straightforward, Matthew. Did you sign that contract as the executive director of the Māori Council with MB for $965,000 in March 2021.
On behalf of the Māori Committee of Benidale in the Māori Council district of Waitomo, and you would be more than welcome to ring the district chair, Kawhia Murihi, to confirm that.
But the contract specified you signed it. It doesn't matter who you signed it on behalf of. On the contract, you signed it as the executive director of the Māori Council. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where the money went. Okay, that's fine. That's one question I want to answer.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's one question I want to answer. I got another question. There are only two of them, Matt. In May of 2021, though you dispute it, and you have got court action and there's lawyers all over the shop, in May 2021, on paper, as it stands, you lost your job in the council in its elections, though you dispute that.
That is the point of dispute, though,
okay, that's a point of dispute. But at the moment, you're not working out of their offices and you do not have access to their staff and you are not designated as the executive director of the Māori Council, correct?
Well, this is the complication of the inquiry not being concluded.
Okay, but right now, as a simple question, yes or no, are you currently officially recognised as the executive director of the Māori Council or not?
Well, to be frank with you, sure, many people believe I still am, and I still hold office at the New Zealand Māori Council.
Okay, on paper, you start, so you're not. Let's just say you're not. You can dispute it, but right now, officially, you are not.
Well, actually, I conject that I am still an office holder. See, this is the conjecture.
No, I didn't ask you an office holder. Are you the executive director or not?
Ask the Māori Council.
Well, they say no. That's why Mr. Fraser from the Māori Council has leaked this story about the $1 million, mate.
But here's the thing. Those office holders would say no. My office holders, who are all in dispute, which cover many of the other Māori Council. Do you go into
work at the Māori Council offices every day, Matt? Is that your place of work?
I actually do go, but our office, the office in Auckland, in Grafton, I go in every couple of days.
Okay, and under what capacity? Are they paying you any money at the moment, the Māori Council, man?
No, and this is the other point of contention.
So that you're not getting paid. So that suggests to me you do not actually have a job, right there.
Sean, I was hardly being paid when I was executive director of the Māori Council.
Okay, I'll play the world's smallest violin. Let's get to the last question.
Oh, mate, come on.
No, hang on. In September 2021, did you sign a document for the Social Development Ministry transferring the contract for this project in Benidale, this $965,000 contract, to the National Māori Authority?
So, yes, I did at the request of the Māori Committee in Benidale, Jean Nankiaville, who holds the mana of the contract, who was leading the program, who, like me and the Maniapoto District Māori Council, were extremely concerned about actually the misconduct of the Māori Council at the time and whether or not the work program would continue.
Okay.
And I would also state very clearly, not once.
So why didn't MSD sign the contract with the Benidale, with these people in Benidale?
Hang on, this is important. And I didn't have anything to do with the due diligence. Obviously, MST did their due diligence, MB did their due diligence, and Tamir. I signed that contract on behalf of the mana of the Māori Committee, who approached me very concerned about the dysfunction of the New Zealand Māori Council and concerned that all of those young people in Benidale and across the Maniapoto District, and by the way, the Maniapoto District Māori Council joins me in the dispute against these people who claim to have office of the Māori Council. And it is a shame and an absolute affront on democracy in this country that a once great institution run by Sir Graham Latimer and Sir Turi Carroll finds itself at the behest of a string of legal action that now goes back more than 10 years and predates me.
All right, despite your outrage, Matt, I want to give you a couple of other facts. Yeah. The Māori Council says that by the 5th of September 2021, Mr. Tukaki held no position within the New Zealand Māori Council. So you had no authority. You had whether or not you were friends with the people in Benidale.
No,
that money was a contract with the New Zealand Māori Council and a government agency. You had no authority to change that contract.
Sean, as much as I love you, that is an absolute lie. I will provide the documentation that I provided to Te Puni Kōkiri that I'm legally required to provide after the triennial elections of 2021, where I was returned as an office holder of the New Zealand Māori Council.
Not its chief executive. And the council says this is executive director. Okay, but the council says by 5th of September 2021, Mr. Tukaki held no position within the NZMC. Are you saying that's a lie?
Again, that's a lie. It is wrong. And this is what sits at the heart of the dispute. And I wish the inquiry would hurry up and do its job. This is why my lawyers, David Patterson and Chris Finlayson, are equally as frustrated by this process. You know, what absolutely does my head in is that while they complain and carry on, it was actually the law firm behind the Māori Council, where the office used to operate out of, who has been backgrounding to this journalist over at Newsroom and providing him with incorrect, unfactual information.
Well, sue him for defamation.
Well, I tell you, I've already filed a complaint with the Media Council of New Zealand, so how's that luck? But I'm taking legal advice at the moment about what to do. But here's the other thing. Not once in any of this nefarious enterprise of the New Zealand Māori Council with this contract have I ever financially benefited or been paid. I don't get paid also by the National Māori Authority. The chief executive of the NMA, Diane Tuati, has released a statement, made it quite clear, and I've said to her, open the books and make that transparent as well. Now, has the money gone to the work program to make sure that those kids who otherwise would have ended up in gangs and God knows where actually working? And I would argue strongly it is, Sean. So all this
hullabaloo... And you didn't clip the ticket, or the Māori Authority didn't clip the ticket on the way through?
I have not, and I'm more than prepared to open up our books on the National Māori Authority to prove what's gone on. But the other thing that really makes me so mad is the contract as it was developed through 2019, the claim that nobody knew about it, and I provided all the documentation, the updates, email trails to Newsroom to prove it was the case. Was a lie that nobody knew about it. Secondly, Jean Nankiville, who is a wonderful, wonderful lady, she was the person behind the contract. Sadly, she received a diagnosis of terminal cancer. She ultimately passed away of cancer, and it was her wish that it ultimately gets
her wish, in a legal sense, means diddly squat in this context when there's $1 million of taxpayers' money there.
I get that, but protecting taxpayer money. Do you think it's a responsible thing for money to be in the hands of a group of individuals who we don't dispute of, have a track record of hullabaloo and haw-ha, constantly in the courts over legal action over their wanting to take control of the New Zealand Māori Council that predates my term?
That seems no more acceptable to me than you walking away from the Māori Council and them not being able to find the financial records for the time you were there.
And that's a lie too, and that's also a lie. And by the way, our lawyers, David Patterson and Chris Finlayson, have written to those people who purport to be representatives of the New Zealand Māori Council and indicated quite strongly, I do not and have never, Sean, either been a signatory to the bank account of the New Zealand Māori Council, hold any of the financial accounts or records of the New Zealand Māori Council.
So where have they gone? And as chief executive, wasn't it your responsibility to make sure that those financial records were kept up to date and could be provided?
No. It was the treasurer of the New Zealand Māori Council who's duly appointed under the Act for office holders as well. And he did a sterling job, and all credit to Ewan.
So why has he lost the financial records then? Why can't they be found?
Oh, no, he hasn't, and that's where they tell more porkies and more lies. He hasn't lost any of the financial records or accounts. What he has said to them is, and by the way, they're in possession of much of the files and records too, because up until 2020...
What bits are missing, Matt?
Well, this is it. They can't tell us what they think is missing because up until 2020, all of the files and records of the New Zealand Māori Council were held at Woodward Law, who was the officio de facto organisation representing Māori Council. When I asked for all of our records in April of 2020 and throughout 2020, the law firm completely and utterly refused, and happy to show you those records. So here is the thing. if someone is arguing that somehow I had access to or hold files or hold the keys to something, I'm here to tell you I don't. My Secretary of the New Zealand Māori Council, acting Raywin Harrison, and also the person responsible for the tribunal elections in taking, Karen Porteris, they have been working diligently to reconstruct files over the last couple of years.
Why do they need to reconstruct them?
Because we inherited, Sean, when I came to office in 2018, I inherited an organisation that, quite frankly, was broken, bereft, and running in an unprofessional way. We didn't have an own office, Sean. Our office was located at the lawyer's house in Myrtle Street, Lower Hutt. That's how bad it is. That is how bad it is.
All right, Matt. Would you...
Sorry, mate.
Look, no. I hear what you're saying, and it sounds to me like this thing is one hot mess, with lawyers with their fingers in and claim and counterclaim. But the fact is, I guess, to an outsider, there's $1 million, and I imagine more in terms of the council's interaction with the government. There's public money involved here. Would you open yourselves up to an official government investigation or an audit office investigation? Would you be prepared to cooperate with that?
Absolutely. And I would say...
I'm watching Matt on video. He's got his hands up like I'm pointing a gun at him. I'm not.
No, absolutely. You're not putting a gun at me. You've raised a really good question, because I actually believe fundamentally the Serious Fraud Office should have a look at elements of what has gone on here, not just the transfer of the contract or whatever the case might be, because I believe fundamentally I'm in the right on that point, and I'll argue that point until the cows come home. But we are talking about a once proud institution. You know, our allocation from government was $180,000 a year. Under my watch, I legally had to undertake two hui. I've got to pay for everyone's travel and accommodation per year, which left very little in the tank. I scraped bottoms of barrels to get the work I did, and I would argue strongly, me and my team over the term that we had, we pulled the New Zealand Māori Council up from the bottom, and we wanted to fight for that Māori Council because it's the only statutory Māori organisation around town. But I also argue strongly, I get so, how do I put it, so angry and mad when people try to use institutions like that for their own little playbook.
But Matt, I'm going to come back to this. When you signed the contract over from the Māori Authority, so from the Māori Council to the Māori Authority, it is highly questionable whether or not you had the legal authority to do so.
I believe I had. No, I believe I had.
You believe it, but the paperwork doesn't tend to show that.
Well, actually, no. MSD and MB did their due diligence. They did their due diligence. There was nothing wrong with it.
Oh, man, they are worried. I can tell you they are worried right now about this.
Not from my conversations with them. But let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the official complaint that's now been laid with the Serious Fraud Office over some of these people that claim to have office.
Who's laid that complaint? Have you, or has it been laid against you?
No, I've laid it myself. I've laid it.
When did you do that? When did you do that?
I did that yesterday.
Yesterday, when the story broke in newsroom, some people would interpret that as you going on the offensive because you've been caught off guard.
No, I wasn't caught off guard. I was hoping the journalist would have done his job. You know, when he yelled down the phone at me on Friday saying, I'm an award-winning investigative journalist, oh, great, you're going to do your job. You're finally going to let the whole story let out. You're going to finally talk about the corruption of an individual claiming to be the chair of the Māori Council in Auckland, who's been in touch with the Solomon Islands Prime Minister's office, claiming that he's got access to this multi-million-dollar fund somewhere. Or the other letter that I think I've supplied Ben, your producer, over being sent emails and letters to Credit Suisse First Boston and HSBC, claiming ownership over heritage accounts. And by the way, we want all that money. And here's the kicker. Those people were claiming, Sean, that they were the Indigenous arm of the government of New Zealand. And quite frankly, you want to talk about scrutiny.
See, I'm sorry, Matt. All this sounds like you are throwing back accusations, having been caught doing something fundamentally dodgy, transferring a contract when you did not have the legal authority to do so.
No, I did not.
If all these things were so important to you, all the Solomon Islands mumbo jumbo, man, why didn't you come out with that story before the day when a journalist is onto the story about you and the $1 million?
Well, because I'd already raised it with the government to seek advice on what
to do. Do you have any documentary proof that you'd already raised it with the government? Can you show me a memo?
Absolutely.
When did you raise it with the government?
2 months ago.
Okay, by letter or by email?
There is email, sorry.
Email. Okay, we'd love to see it. You get in contact with Ben and see it. So
Of
Aaron
course I can.
Smale,
But
who's
Sean-
who's the journalist who did this for Newsroom, your lawyers are talking. Are you going to sue him? Do you think this story is defamatory and it's misrepresented you?
Yeah, I think it's misrepresented me. As with the establishment, I'm getting advice, but I think it's because, quite frankly, and you look, I know this is what I love about what you do. You say about this mainstream media lot, right? Do your job, do a good quality journalism. I was hoping Aaron Smale would put all of the facts on the table. I supplied him with an inordinate amount of information, plus I offered to sit down with him and open the records, show him the emails, have a look at the books, the whole box and dice. And what he did was yell down the phone at me. He was also the wrong person to have written the article that I made this point.
Oh, why was he the wrong
Media
person?
Council.
Why do you get to choose who writes an article about you, man?
So on the bottom, no, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about at the bottom of the article, he talks about my role at Oranga Tamariki, which I think I did a sterling bloody good job on to deliver a
Okay,
report.
well, I've never heard any
speed.
complaints or scandal associated with your role there.
Absolutely. But he likes to put that in there to connect Oranga Tamariki somehow when there's another nefarious venture, because the other nonsense that has been put around town by the same person giving him information, and he's bought into that.
Okay, who's that person? Who's that person?
Well, I'm not going to get into that.
Why not? Why not? Let's be transparent. Let's get into it.
No, I'm going through that defamatory advice thing that we talked about before. So I'll at least leave that powder dry for the time.
And your lawyers were happy for you to come and talk to me live on the platform this morning?
No.
They weren't happy.
But this is it, Sean. No, but I'm fronting, Sean. I'm fronting, and I'll always front.
All right. Well, you're going to keep on fronting, I hope, and we will watch this with great interest, Matt. And thank you for fronting. I'm not sure that I feel any clearer, and I'm still worried about this $1 million. And I've got to say, because the Māori Council is a statutorily created body, I do think the government has to intervene and sort out whatever mess there is there.
Thank you. I do too, and I
don't want you to go to prison, but you never know how these things work.
I'm not going to prison. Here's the thing. In February last year, and before February last year, I raised issues with the government about the integrity of the triennial elections of the New Zealand Māori Council.
Yeah.
I rewritten and written to them, and my lawyers have
How
as
many
well.
court cases around that election are currently? How much legal action is already going on around all this? Someone said to me there are four or five different cases.
Oh, there have been 4 or 5 different cases, but we're waiting for the inquiry to report, and that is important. We want to know what the results of the inquiry are. We've provided all of the documentary evidence, our minutes of the triennial elections, when they were held, on the day, during, as the Māori Community Development Act has prescribed. But I will tell you this. Irrespective of what happens here, the once great institution run by Sir Graham Latimer and Sir Turi Carroll, to be frank, the government needs to relook at whether or not that act and whether or not we all fairly represent Māori interests.
All right. The other thing I would say, Matt, the other thing I would say that is really sad is for anyone who chooses and has a view of Māori as being incompetent and a little bit crooked, rubbish like this does nothing to enhance the mana of Māori, and their standing in the New Zealand community. Yet again, we think like Ngā Tata Love or something, they can't manage themselves and they're all dodgy. And that's a real damn shame.
Oh, mate, that's the part that does my head. And that is why I've been working overtime over the last 12 to 18 months to try and get this sorted out, because this is not about kaupapa, but this is not about focusing on the issues of the day. And quite frankly, Sean, our people out there, whether they be Māori or Pākehā, everyday New Zealanders, everyday Māori out there, they look at this sort of shit and they go, what the hell? And by the way, I'm struggling to put food on my table and milk in my fridge and meat on my...
Well, I got to say, Matt, I'm still struggling to see how you had the legal authority under the circumstances to transfer that contract, but... There's a lot of water to go under the bridge on this yet, and I thank you very much for joining us this morning. Okay?
Sean, can I just say one thing about Chloe Swarbrick?
Yeah.
I sat down with Sandra Lee for the Inspiring Māori series last night, 43 minutes tapping into her life. The first Wahine Māori that was elected in a general seat, and that was Auckland Central.
That's right. Yeah, I remember I was a reporter.
Yep, a local government minister, a conservation minister, a leader of a political party. And where's her documentary? Where's her documentary? She's not in politics anymore. She was a diplomat. She represented the UK and New Zealand in Niue. Where's her story? Because 43 minutes in, we go through her story last night on my show. And let me tell you, mate, if you want to spend $220,000 or whatever it is of taxpayers' money, go chase that marvellous woman's story. And I just think it's an absolute crying shame that's not where the money's going.
Okay, and I would suggest, Matt, you've got bigger fish to fry and more problems to deal with than Chloe Swarbrick right now. But thank you for joining us, brother. We'll keep in touch.
Thanks, my friend.
That is Matt Tukaki. He still says that he is somehow involved in the Māori Council. They say he isn't. He's certainly with the National Māori Authority now. And look, the whole thing sounds like a right mess. And I think someone from government, someone in the beehive, has to step in and sort this out because it's our taxpayers' dollar involved.